I have witnessed 347 planetary conquests in my career as a military observer for the Galactic Council, and I can tell you with absolute certainty that nothing prepares you for watching a human smile before a battle. It is not the smile of prey accepting death. No. It is something far more disturbing. But I am getting ahead of myself. Let me start at the beginning, when Warlord Krathus the Merciless made the single greatest tactical error of his 12,000-year lifespan. He laughed at Captain Mira Volkov. Now Krathus was not just any warlord. This creature had personally dismantled 43 civilizations. His chitinous armor was carved from the bones of a dead star. His 6 arms could each wield a plasma cannon that could vaporize a city block. His reputation was so terrifying that entire sectors surrendered at the mere mention of his fleet approaching. When he spoke, even his own officers flinched. So when his invasion force arrived at the human colony of New Perth, everyone expected the usual routine: demands, refusal, annihilation. Perhaps 20 minutes from start to finish if the humans were particularly stubborn. I was there as an official observer, you understand. The Council requires documentation of all major military actions. Personally, I was already composing my report in my head. Another human colony lost. Such a shame. They made excellent coffee. The communication came through at 0800 hours, ship time. Krathus appeared on every screen across New Perth, all 6 of his eyes gleaming with what I can only describe as bored malevolence. His mandibles clicked together in what passed for a smile among his species. "Humans of New Perth," he announced, his voice like grinding metal, "you will surrender your world within the next standard hour. You will provide us with all resources, technology, and genetic material. Resistance will result in extinction. These terms are non-negotiable." Standard villain speech. Very professional. I had heard variations of it hundreds of times. What happened next, however, was decidedly not standard. The human leadership, instead of panicking or negotiating or doing literally anything sensible, patched through a single person to respond. Captain Mira Volkov. She was young by human standards, perhaps 30 cycles. Short, dark hair, grey eyes that looked like frozen steel, and most remarkably, she was smiling. Not a nervous smile. Not a fake diplomatic smile. A genuine, warm, almost amused smile. Like someone had just told her a particularly funny joke. "Hi there, Krathus," she said cheerfully, actually waving at the screen. "Thanks for the introduction. Very dramatic. Really loved the whole bone armor aesthetic you have going on. Must take forever to polish." I felt my 3 stomachs drop. Was this human insane? "You do not mock a warlord who commands 700 ships." Krathus stared at her. All 6 eyes blinked in sequence, which I had learned meant he was experiencing genuine confusion. "You dare address me with such disrespect, prey creature?" "Oh, I am sorry," Mira said, her smile widening. "Should I be more formal? Your terribleness. Lord of the obviously compensating for something. Captain of the ship with the frankly ridiculous number of spikes on it." Several of Krathus's officers made strangled sounds. I checked my translator twice to ensure it was functioning correctly. Yes, she had actually said that. "You mock me?" Krathus leaned forward, his mandibles spreading wide. "Perhaps you do not understand your situation. My fleet will darken your skies. My weapons will boil your oceans. Your species will be remembered only as a footnote in my campaign records." Right, very scary. Mira nodded, still smiling. "Quick question though. Have you actually checked what kind of colony New Perth is?" This gave Krathus pause. "A human agricultural settlement. Population 400,000. Minimal defenses. My intelligence is thorough." "Your intelligence is garbage," Mira said pleasantly. "New Perth is not an agricultural colony. Well, okay, we do grow some really excellent tomatoes. But primarily we are a retirement community for the Soul Defense Force." I perked up at this. The Soul Defense Force. I had heard whispers about them. Humans who had fought in the Outer Rim Wars, the rebellion of the machine worlds, the incident at Proxima that we still do not speak about in polite company. "Retirement?" Krathus scoffed. "You expect me to fear your elderly?" "Oh, you absolutely should," Mira said. And there was something in her voice now, something sharp hidden beneath the friendly tone. "See, we have about 80,000 retired soldiers here. Average age, 65 human years. They have been farming, fishing, playing cards and complaining about young people for the last decade. And you know what? They are really bored." "This changes nothing," Krathus bellowed. "Old warriors are still old, weak, slow. They will die like all the others." Mira tilted her head, and her smile somehow became even brighter. "That is adorable. You really believe that? How sweet. Tell me, Krathus, in all your conquests, how many humans have you actually fought?" Silence. Long, stretching silence. "That is what I thought," Mira continued. "See, you have been picking on species that actually make sense. Species that value their lives. Species that surrender when faced with overwhelming force. Smart species." She leaned forward, and her eyes locked onto his. "We are not smart species, Krathus. We are humans. And you just threatened our tomato gardens." "Enough of this nonsense," Krathus roared. "You have 45 minutes remaining. Surrender or die." "Counter-offer," Mira said. "You have 45 minutes to leave. After that we cannot guarantee your safety." And then she cut the transmission. I sat in my observation pod, absolutely stunned. That human had just signed the death warrant for her entire colony. There was no possible way they could survive. Krathus had 700 warships. The humans had what? Farming equipment, medical facilities for elderly soldiers. This was going to be a massacre. I began preparing my report immediately, detailing the tragic and entirely predictable outcome of human arrogance meeting superior military force. 30 minutes later, Krathus's fleet began their approach. 700 ships, arranged in perfect formation, weapons charging, shields at maximum. It was beautiful in a terrible way, like watching a storm roll in to destroy a seaside village. The colony had not evacuated. In fact, as Krathus's sensors swept the surface, the humans appeared to be gathering outside, in groups, thousands of them, just standing there in the open, making no attempt to seek shelter or flee. "They have accepted their fate," one of Krathus's officers observed. "At least they faced death with dignity." "No," I whispered, watching my own sensor readings. "No, they are not accepting death. They are positioning themselves," because that is when I noticed it. The groups were not random. They were forming up in precise military formations, old formations, from wars I had only read about in historical documents. And every single human was armed, not with standard weapons. Oh no, these humans had brought out equipment that I recognized from museum archives. Weapons from the Outer Rim Wars. The kind of weapons that were banned by 17 different galactic conventions. The kind of weapons that made hardened soldiers wake up screaming. "Launch the first wave," Krathus commanded. "Show them the price of disrespect." 50 attack craft screamed down through the atmosphere. Weapons hot, ready to strafe the assembled humans. Standard tactics: kill the ground forces, break their spirit, accept the surrender. The humans waited until the attack craft were at optimal firing range. Then Mira's voice crackled across every frequency. Just one word. "Now, what happened next will haunt me until my dying day, and I have seen some truly horrific things in my career." The humans opened fire. All of them. Simultaneously, the sky lit up like a supernova. Railguns that could punch through battleship armor. Plasma cannons that turned atmosphere into ionized gas. Missiles that had guidance systems smarter than most species. And something called rocket launchers that apparently humans just kept in their garages for fun. 47 of the 50 attack craft were destroyed in the first 3 seconds. The remaining 3 tried to retreat and were picked off before they could clear the atmosphere. On Krathus's flagship, every alarm suddenly started screaming. His officers were shouting over each other, their voices rising in panic, because the sensors had finally finished their deep scan of the colony. "Sir," one officer shrieked, "the structures, they are not civilian buildings, they are reinforced bunkers. Every single structure has military-grade shielding and automated defense turrets." "The farms," another yelled. "They are not farms. The fields are camouflaged artillery positions. The retirement homes, a third one gasped. They are barracks, fully stocked armories. Sir, this entire colony is a fortified military base disguised as a civilian settlement. Krathus stared at the readings, his mandibles hanging open in shock. This is impossible. Our intelligence clearly indicated. Your intelligence, Mira's voice came through again, still cheerful, spent 3 months observing elderly Eunals growing tomatoes and playing shuffleboard. What your intelligence failed to notice is that we were also building the most heavily defended colony in this sector. Because you see, retirement does not mean we stopped being soldiers. It just means we had time to prepare. You planned this. Krathus stammered. You knew we would come. Planned? Oh, sweetie, no. We hoped you would come. Do you have any idea how boring retirement is? Do you know how many times I can watch old man Tucker argue with old woman Reeves about whose tomatoes are bigger before I lose my mind? Mira laughed. You are not an invasion force, Krathus. You are entertainment. That was when the second wave of human attacks began. And this time, they did not just shoot at the ships. They launched boarding craft, modified dropships that attached themselves to Krathus's vessels like parasites. Within minutes his crews were reporting breaches. All ships repel boarders. Krathus commanded, kill any human that sets foot on my vessels. I switched my sensors to observe the boarding actions. What I saw made me question my understanding of combat entirely. The humans were not young soldiers. They were exactly what Mira had described. Elderly warriors, some with grey hair, some with cybernetic limbs from old injuries. One woman who appeared to be at least 70 human years old was leading a squad while using a walker for mobility, and they were absolutely demolishing Krathus's elite troops. An old man with a mechanical arm punched through reinforced armor like it was paper. A woman with a cane used it to vault over a defensive barrier, then used the cane to beat 3 warriors unconscious before they could react. The elderly woman with the walker had somehow mounted a plasma cannon on it and was using it as a mobile weapons platform while cackling with glee. This is wrong. One of Krathus's officers wailed. They are old. They should be slow, weak. They are augmented. I realized aloud, studying the data. Years of military service gave them access to the best human enhancement technology, stronger bones, faster reflexes, enhanced healing. These are not just old soldiers. These are old soldiers who have spent decades maintaining their combat capabilities. On the screen, Mira was suiting up in armor that looked like it had seen 100 battles. Each dent and scratch told a story. She picked up a rifle that was older than some of the ships in orbit. All units, Phase 2, she announced. Let us show them why you do not mess with New Perth. Phase 2, as it turned out, was when the humans stopped being polite and started getting creative. And let me tell you, there is nothing more terrifying in this universe than a creative human with military experience and a grudge about interrupted gardening time. The elderly woman with the walker, who I learned was named Commander Yuki Tanaka, had breached the engine room of one of Krathus's destroyers. She was now holding 17 crew members hostage while live streaming the event back to the flagship. Not because she needed hostages, no, she was doing it purely for psychological warfare. Listen up, you overgrown cockroaches, she said, adjusting her glasses with one hand while keeping her plasma cannon steady with the other. I was in the middle of making apple pie when you idiots showed up. Do you know how hard it is to get the crust just right at high altitude? Do you? No, of course you don't, because you probably eat nutrient paste, like savages. One of the hostages tried to move. She shot the floor next to his foot without even looking. Did I say you could move? I am 73 years old, my knees hurt, and my patients died somewhere around your 4th or 5th declaration of inevitable doom. Now you are going to sit there quietly while I explain exactly how badly your boss messed up. Back on the flagship, Krathus was watching this transmission with growing horror. Half of his bridge crew had already stopped responding. The humans had taken 12 ships completely, and were in the process of taking control of 30 more. His invasion force was being systematically dismantled by geriatric warriors, who should have been drinking tea and complaining about back pain. This cannot be happening, he muttered, his mandibles trembling. How are they doing this? Sir, an officer called out. We are receiving another transmission from the surface. It is Captain Volkov again. Mira appeared on screen, and she was no longer smiling. Her expression was calm, cold, professional. The face of someone who had done this 1,000 times before and would do it 1,000 times again. Hello again, Krathus. Having a bad day? Because from where I am standing, and I am standing on top of what used to be one of your gunships, things are going wonderfully. What do you want? Krathus demanded, his voice cracking slightly. You have made your point. You are stronger than anticipated. Name your terms for ceasefire. Terms? Mira raised an eyebrow. Oh, honey, you think this is a negotiation? No, no, no. See, you made a critical error. You came to our home and threatened us. You insulted us. And worst of all, you interrupted our retirement. She leaned closer to the camera. We were soldiers for 40 years, Krathus. 40 years of fighting, killing, watching friends die, making impossible choices. And when we finally got to retire, we chose this place, we built gardens, we made friends, we found peace. She paused, and in that moment I saw something in her eyes that made my blood run cold. It was the look of someone who had nothing left to lose and everything to prove. And you took that from us, she continued, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. So now we are going to take everything from you. Not because we have to, but because we want to. Because you reminded us what we are really good at. You are bluffing, Krathus said, but I could hear the fear in his voice. You cannot possibly defeat my entire fleet. Mira smiled again, but this time it was not friendly. It was the smile of a predator that had just cornered its prey. Watch me. She cut the transmission, and that was when the real battle began. Because up until that point, the humans had only been using conventional weapons, standard military equipment, things that made sense. Now they brought out the weird stuff. An old man named Victor, who claimed he used to be a chef before joining the military, had somehow weaponized his cooking skills. He breached a troop carrier and released a gas that smelled, according to sensor readings, like the worst possible combination of sulfur and rotting vegetables. Within 30 seconds, every single crew member was incapacitated, vomiting uncontrollably. I call it stink bomb number 7, Victor announced cheerfully over the comms. I developed it during the siege of Epsilon Station. Great for clearing rooms without permanent damage. Terrible for anyone with a sense of smell. A group of 5 humans, all appearing to be in their 60s, had taken control of a battlecruiser and were now flying it. Badly. They kept ramming it into other ships, apparently on purpose, while whooping and laughing like children on a theme park ride. This is better than bumper cars, one of them shouted. Harold, you just crashed us into a destroyer, another yelled back. I know. It was awesome. Did you see how it exploded? Krathus watched his fleet falling apart in the most undignified manner possible. Ships surrendering, ships being captured, ships fleeing and colliding with each other in their panic. And through it all, the humans were having the time of their lives. Sir, one of his remaining officers said quietly, perhaps we should consider retreating. Retreating? Krathus stared at him. I am Krathus the Merciless. I do not retreat from anyone, especially not from elderly humans. With respect, sir, the officer continued, these are not normal elderly humans. These are humans who have decided that dying in glorious combat is preferable to another game of bingo. We cannot win against people who are genuinely excited about the prospect of being shot at. As if to prove the point, another transmission came through. This one was from Commander Tanaka, who had now taken full control of the destroyer she had boarded. Attention all ships, she announced. This is Commander Yuki Tanaka of the Seoul Defense Force. Retired. I have commandeered this vessel and am now offering free baking lessons to any crew members who surrender peacefully. First lesson is apple pie. Second lesson is how to properly clean and maintain a plasma rifle. These skills are more related than you might think. She is insane, Krathus whispered. No, I corrected him, finally understanding what I was witnessing. She is human. There is a difference, though I admit it is sometimes difficult to spot. The battle, if you could even call it that anymore, continued for another 2 hours. By the end, Krathus had lost 473 ships. 112 had been captured by the humans, 98 had been destroyed, the rest had fled the system entirely, ignoring all orders to regroup. Krathus himself was down to his flagship and 17 escort vessels. His legendary invasion force had been reduced to barely enough ships to fill a parking lot. Mira contacted him one final time. "So," she said, casually cleaning her rifle, while sitting in what appeared to be a very comfortable chair. "Learned your lesson yet?" Krathus said nothing. His mandibles were clamped shut so tightly I was surprised they did not crack. "I will take that as a yes," Mira continued. "Now, here is what is going to happen. You are going to leave. You are going to tell everyone you meet about what happened here, and you are going to make sure that every warlord, every pirate, every idiot with a spaceship and delusions of grandeur knows one simple fact." She leaned forward, her grey eyes boring into the camera. "Do not mess with human retirement colonies. We have already done our time. We have already fought our wars, but if you make us come out of retirement, we will not just defeat you. We will embarrass you. We will humiliate you. We will turn your invasion into a comedy show that people will laugh about for generations." "This is not over," Krathus managed to say, though his voice lacked conviction. "Oh, sweetie," Mira said, that amused smile returning. "It is so over. You just have not accepted it yet. But you will. Trust me, you will. Now get out of our system before we decide to keep your flagship as a community center. We have been needing a bigger space for our dance classes." Krathus did not need to be told twice. His remaining ships jumped to faster than light speed so quickly that they left scorch marks in space. I remained behind to file my report, watching as the humans celebrated their victory. They were not cheering about conquest or glory. No, they were cheering because they could finally get back to their gardens, their hobbies, their peaceful retirement. Commander Tanaka was already advertising her baking classes, now with added spaceship maintenance tutorials. Victor was planning a celebratory feast using ingredients he had appropriated from captured ships. Harold and his friends were arguing about who got to keep the battlecruiser they had stolen, with one suggesting they turn it into a mobile golf course. And Captain Mira Volkov, hero of New Perth, was walking through the colony greeting everyone, checking on injuries, making sure everyone was okay, like a good leader should. I approached her, my diplomatic credentials giving me clearance. "That was remarkable," I said honestly. "I have never seen anything like it." She looked at me and shrugged. "We are humans. We are pretty good at two things: making friends and making war. Krathus did not give us the option of making friends, so we defaulted to option 2. He will spread word of this," I warned. "Your colony will become famous. Others might come, seeking to test themselves against the humans who defeated Krathus." Mira grinned. "Good. We were getting bored anyway. Besides, if they come looking for a fight, they will find one, and maybe, just maybe, they will learn the same lesson Krathus did, which is, never, ever underestimate someone who has already survived everything the universe could throw at them and decided that growing tomatoes was a nice way to spend their golden years." She patted my shoulder in a friendly manner that nevertheless made me flinch. "Because if we survived all that and chose peace, imagine what we can do when someone takes that peace away." I filed my report that evening. The council was skeptical at first, until I showed them the footage. Then they were simply stunned. The incident at New Perth became legendary. Krathus never recovered his reputation. He retired from warlording entirely, and ironically, took up farming on a distant moon. I heard he grows excellent carrots now, though he never smiles anymore. As for New Perth, it became known across the galaxy as the one place you absolutely did not invade. Trade ships visited regularly. Diplomatic envoys came to learn from the humans. Young soldiers came to hear war stories from the veterans. But no one, absolutely no one, ever threatened them again, because everyone had learned the most important lesson about humans. They will give you every chance to be friends. They will share their food, their stories, their kindness. But if you push them, if you threaten what they love, if you make them remember what they used to be, then you will face something far worse than soldiers. You will face humans who have nothing to prove and everything to protect. And that, my friends, is the most dangerous thing in the universe. I still visit New Perth sometimes. Commander Tanaka makes excellent apple pie. Victor taught me how to cook something called goulash. Harold tried to teach me golf, but I lacked the proper number of limbs for it. And sometimes when the sun sets and we sit together watching the sky, Mira will smile that same smile she gave Krathus. The one that says she knows exactly how dangerous she is, and she is perfectly fine with that. You know, she said to me once, the funny thing about retirement is that it is not about stopping. It is about choosing what you do next. We chose peace, but we never forgot how to fight. And if someone threatens that peace, I ask, her smile widened, then we remind them why we got to retire in the first place. Because we were very, very good at our jobs. I raised my glass to that. Because really, what else could you do but respect humans who turned an invasion into a comedy show, who turned their retirement home into a fortress, and who proved that age does not diminish a warrior, it only gives them more time to get creative. The galaxy is a dangerous place. But it is a little less dangerous knowing that somewhere out there is a colony of elderly humans protecting it. Not because they have to, but because someone threatened their tomatoes, and that apparently is unforgivable.